Kelly will handle domestic violence cases. And so what happened to my lawsuit? It withered away and died because the lawsuit was premised on the fact that they were doing something without legal authority. So in response, His Highness signs an administrative order and declares himself as the source of the legal authority that was needed. Sleight of hand. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? He doesn't give a hoot about how his colleagues look at it, about how this challenger who eventually became a judge looked at it. He doesn't care. He doesn't need their approval. He didn't legally, so he did it. He did it. Do you want someone like that as your judge? With all these other bad things he's doing to people, keeping families separated, loved ones separated. Oh, my word. So, finally, that was 2 years ago. And if those of you who are involved in the community and have watched these things, you may have recalled that 2 years ago I hosted some judicial forums for people who were running for judge to afford the community an opportunity to hear what the people running to be their judge had to say. And I hosted a forum for the primary and again for the general election. And so at the time, I was thinking, a lot of people actually wanted me to run for judge at that time because there's an open seat. And I chose not to, and instead hosted the forums for those running for judge. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, sure, it'd be easy to get elected judge with an open seat, okay? Because you're not challenging an incumbent. Let me tell you, challenging an incumbent is tough. Why? Because incumbency is on the ballot. Well, what does that mean? It means that when you go to vote for president in just a couple weeks, you'll see president, and you'll see under the Republican name or banner, Mitt Romney. And then under the Democratic banner, it'll say Barack Obama. But when you go to the judicial portion of your ballot, and you look at the judicial race for 74th District Court, the one I'm involved, you look at my name, or you look at my name. There it is. And you look at Tim Kelly's name, you know what it says underneath? District Judge. Okay? So you understand what I'm saying there? Judges have the distinction of their incumbency right on the ballot when even the president doesn't. Okay? That makes it very difficult to run for judge and be a sitting judge. Why? Because a lot of people don't follow it. They don't know, they don't care until they get caught up in the system. It doesn't impact or have any bearing on their lives. So they vote for the incumbent. And if they vote, because from the president down to judicial, you lose 25% of the votes. 25% of the voters who are voting for president are dropped off by the time they reach judicial positions. So it's very difficult to beat a sitting judge. And if I wanted to do it, the opportunity would have been 2 years ago. Okay? But 2 years ago, we had a good field of candidates. I don't want to be judge. Not then, not now. I'm only running for judge because I know I could not sleep with myself if I didn't challenge the re-election, the recreation, the continuation, the perpetuation of what I'm telling you about tonight. Tim Kelly should be stopped. There's no reason why. There is no reason why he should be the self-proclaimed domestic violence king. And there's no reason why we as a community should tolerate it. Now, they do it in the courthouse, okay? And all the lawyers, they kiss up to them. And they do it with all the judges, frankly. Well, most lawyers, not all of them. But, and what's interesting, too, about Kelly and lawyers is this. I have self-financed my campaign. the yard signs, the bumper stickers, tonight's program, the literature, and I'm proud of that literature. That's one of the best pieces I've ever done. But it's all out of my pocket because I want to stop what's been going on to such an extent that I'll pay my own shot and take a pay cut if elected and be required to set aside my practice I've worked so hard to build up. Why? Because the greater good of the many far exceeds the gain of the self. In other words, what's more important, the community or me? To me, it's been the community. Has been all my life. Look at my history. 4 decades. and that really comes back to my roots. I grew up in the 60s, you know, and made that commitment towards social cause. I bought into it. Turn on, tune in, drop out was the slogan then. And I did drop out. I quit high school at the age of 16, never went back, never graduated. So, you know, I'm a product of the 60s, and that's what motivates me now in 2012. I could not rest easy and be comfortable with myself if I did not try and make a good conscious effort to stop the abuse of our citizens, the perpetuation of power, the way it you know, let me tell you, I can equate it this way best. In the morning at the courthouse, what they do is they all get around in this big circle, okay? And then they scratch each other's back. That's how they start every morning in the courthouse. And you know, when in the old courthouse, what's now the county building, they had the public defender's office in a separate building, and probation department was in a separate building. Now they're all under this one roof. And you know what? I didn't like it then, and I like it even less now, because it builds this coziness, this camaraderie, this sense that this is our business, this is our courthouse, not yours, the public. How many of you have been rudely treated by a personnel in the courthouse? Okay? And I'm not saying we have some very dedicated people there, believe me, good people, but then there's some really rude ones too. And it's like, we're the people, and we should insist on quality from not only the secretarial staff or the people like that, clerks, but from our judges too. By what right does Kelly get away pulling these stunts? We have an opportunity to stop it this year, okay? And I really believe in my heart that we can do it. Let me tell you, the biggest change in this county that has ever taken place to this date was back in 1978. How many years ago was that? So 44 years ago. 44 years ago, I spearheaded a petition drive with the citizens in this town to get a referendum vote put on the ballot to adopt the elected executive system of government. Okay, that's 44 years ago. 34, actually. 34? My math was never good, thank you. 34, right. I was thinking, 44, God, am I that old? So I collected 5,000 signatures. I was a student at the time. I had no money. And it was through the collective efforts of the citizens, the will, the petition of the public, we the people, that by God, the county board had to put it on the ballot. This was the elected executive system of government. Prior to that, there were only 2 counties that had ever adopted it, Oakland and Wayne. Now those counties that adopted it before us, adopted it by the politicians putting it on the ballot for the people to vote on, okay? Because there's 2 ways you can get on the ballot. By the politicians putting it on the ballot, or by the people petitioning for it. In 1978, we became the first Michigan community to get that proposal put on the ballot by a petition of the people. 34 years later, we remain the only Michigan community to to have gotten that petition ballot that petition proposal on the ballot, and it passed. Okay, it passed. But it wasn't an easy thing to do, because as soon as I got that ballot proposal placed on the ballot through a petition of the people, what did the politicians do? By then they had to put it on the ballot. And this is all history. I can show you the clips. They had to put it on the ballot. And so by putting it on the ballot, what do? They insert another option, because as I petitioned, it said, shall the people vote to elect the elected existence of county government? Yes or no? Well, that same proposal, the state law said actually you could adopt the elected executive system of government under one of two systems, either the appointed manager or the elected executive under the unified system of county government. So I opted for the elected executive system under the unified system, and the politicians, the Bay County Board of Commissioners, inserted another option allowing for the appointed manager. Now, they had their own ill-defined former commissioner that they had made a new job for, a county administrator, and they appointed him to it. His name was Bud Voisey, Francis Voisey. And he had been the appointed county administrator under the Board of Commissioners from which he came for a number of years. By placing it on the ballot and giving the public an opportunity to adopt the unified system of county government under the elected executive, it forced that man to run for election if he wanted to hang on to that seat. But no, instead the County Board of Commissioners inserted the option about the appointed manager. What does that do? Here's what it did. And this is incredible. In order to cast a valid vote in that 1978 election, the public had to first vote yes or no. Shall Bay County adopt a unified system of county government? Yes or no? Then you had to go to another side of the ballot and then go, oh, okay, if so, should it be the appointed manager or the elected executive? Now, if you didn't vote both sides, it wasn't valid. And you wouldn't believe how many people voted for the unified system of county government and didn't realize that they had to vote for the other. One of the two options. I mean, come on. You had to vote twice to cast one single valid vote. And I filed a lawsuit against that back then. And Judge Dardis here, a local judge, and I was not in law school yet. Judge Dardis ruled in my favor. There's a story there. I'm not going to go into that. You know, I could go into these things all night. But ultimately went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that they could do what they did. And we had a big drop-off in votes in the very first part of the drop. You know, a lot of voters wanted the unified system of county government, and those would have been valid votes, only they were lost on the other two options. They didn't get voted on. We still passed, okay? And when I spearheaded that thing, I was orchestrating it. I believe I was in law school at the time, down in Detroit. So it passed. And I kind of look at this today, 2012, jumping ahead, as the same sort of thing, okay? I'm looking to you folks as the catalyst to make this reform happen. And I had that instrumental role in the past in county government, and I'm here to tell you I can have that instrumental role in the state of your local courts. But I can't do it without your help. So that's why we're here. I've seen an awful lot of Judge Kelly's abuse and mistreatment of people in the years gone by, and now I want you to hear it from someone else, and that's Art Dorr. Okay? Thank you.
Well, I just think that Ed is a good man. I think he's proven himself in the court of law. And I think that he knows what the feeling in the community really is. So I think he will be a great judge. Yeah, well, that process I thought wasn't handled very well. I think it was probably politically motivated. Um, I just, what happened is an argument ensued with my lady friend, and that was it. She wants nothing to do with the whole thing. It was a little bit of a misunderstanding. Certainly no violence, but instead of investigating the thing and really knowing what they're talking about, no one ever talked to me. No one ever talked to her. The only one that ever talked to her, she tells me, is the Women's Center pushing her to try to make a case out of it. But it just didn't make any sense. The message that should send everybody is when the facts were once laid out and the witnesses spoke, it was very obvious that there was no domestic violence there whatsoever. First of all, this is a small community. In the legal system, everyone knows everyone. I've been in this community for 70-some years. And it just seems that everybody is buddy-buddy. One of the guys that's sitting on the outside getting their fingers pointed at him is Ed Czyprynski. Any murder cases or anything like that comes along, usually it's Ed that handles them and looks out for the guy that's in trouble, whether it's right or wrong. He represents them and does a good job. So there, just as I said at the time, there's just a lot of phooey going on out there, buddy-buddy system, and I don't believe in that. The bond situation made no sense. Here's a 70-some-year-old guy, never been in trouble in his life, a business person in the community, and says that I can't see my lady friend that I've been with for 15 years, and she can't see me. That is the most ridiculous thing ever. Made no sense. Why would they do that? I have no idea. I would think that there should be, I know in other places that we've had some experience in the courts, you don't know who the judge is even going to be because it goes on a rotation system. But it seems like here in Bay County, they make their own rules and say who's going to take care of this part and who's going to take care of this part and who's going to take care of this part. That doesn't make sense to me. I think it just took a lot of taxpayers' money to waste all this time, as well as the money it cost me for my representation and time it took in the court. It just a waste of money. Yeah, they know exactly where the case is going. They know exactly who the judge is and how he thinks and what he's going to do. So they have a little arrangement, even if it's an unwritten rule, they know what's going on. Well, yeah, it did. In fact, I know some of the people from the prosecutor's office that was handling the case, and they didn't even agree with what they were doing. You know, that tells you something. But they're told what to do, so that's what they have to do. I think so. I think that he would look at the facts more and do a bit of an investigation to find out really what the case was. I believe that there was no investigation whatsoever. There was just none. It's just a matter that someone said, well, he was involved, and so he's guilty. That's basically what they say, instead of investigating and see what their case really is. No, other than I really think that it would be great to give Ed a shot at being the judge. 62 years old, he's had a lot of experience, and I think he'd be a very fair judge. Well, I think there's a lot of people that would really like to see Ed and get behind him and where he could be judge. But they are frightened, they're afraid to, because the system is out there, and a small community, it's just like myself, they say, oh, you're supporting Ed Czyprynski, maybe there's something wrong with you. Well, you know what? People should stand up for what they believe. This is a free country. You should not be afraid to say who you like and who you don't like, even if you're the only one. But I believe there's a lot of people who want to say something, and I hope they do. So that's all I got to say about that.
Good.
I've read some places that you were a high school dropout.
Mm-hmm.
If that's true, why did you drop out of high school?
What's your name? You gotta give your name.
Well, my name's Rick, so
Thank you. As a requirement. It was mainly because of boredom, okay? And I was really disturbed at Garber High School where I went. I quit in 67. I would have graduated in 69. In fact, I quit on my 16th birthday because that was the first day I could legally quit. Just making a statement, but I was bored and I was very upset with the clique system that they seem to have in the school. I don't know if it's still like that, but back then it was. And I didn't like the way kids were treated by their other students, you know. If you were poor or if you were not blessed with good looks or intelligence or something like that, people were picking on you. There's just a class system. So I always knew that I was smart and I could do something with my life, but I sure as heck didn't want to spend my time in high school any longer than I had to. And I don't know if it's necessary. I don't really think it's the school's fault. Okay, I think I would have been had these problems wherever I'd go because kids are cruel. Kids are cruel, and so they pass judgment quickly and irrationally wherever you go. Had there been homeschooling at the time or things of that nature, maybe I would have stayed in school. But I can honestly say it never held me back. But that's why.
thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Heather Sanchez, and I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
In your years of experience in the Bay County courts, who would you rate as the best and worst judges that you've been in front of, in your opinions?
In all my history
Yes.
of involvement, because that's over 30 years as a lawyer and probably another 8, 10 years not as a lawyer. But I've been involved in the criminal justice system for a long time in this town. I'd have to say probably in those years, the best judge would be I'd probably be inclined to say Ira Butterfield. Ira